are Black Orcs Shield version, any good in patch 6.0.2. These are getting some hate, so I'm going to address that, but that's partly because I'm used to handling similar units in a campaign setting. Multiplayer mains have good reasons for not caring as much for this unit. It nonetheless has its uses and is very, very hard to kill without serious attention. Recruited for 1000 gold and 250 upkeep. On Ultra, this gets you 80 entities with 10,800 health spread between them. That's 135 health per entity. This makes it very inefficient to kill them via basically any magic in the entire game. Armor is 110, and that's default, but how armor works in this game, creeping over 100 means you are guaranteed more and more incoming base damage simply ceases to exist. So starting over 100 means that the unit is flat out immune to a high percentage of base damage coming in, whether or not it is magical, flaming, or mundane. Armor piercing obviously gets through that. But from the front, these Black Orcs have big angry shields, angrily blocking 55% of small arms missile fire. There is a cost for that. But the Greenskins as a faction haven't had anything blocking stuff like this for a while ever since regular goblins lost it, and therefore lost their top tier missile tar pit status, and went back to having to block arrows with their heads. Or at least 65% of the time from the front. Anyway, point is, it is very hard to kill Black Orcs from the front with missiles, even if it's handgunner fire, and that's new. Normally that was one of the best ways to be rid of the old unit that's become the Great Weapons version. What am I talking about? It's still one of the best ways. But moving on, and incidentally, artillery does ignore the shields. Leadership of 72 is pretty high for a Greenskins unit. Speed 29 and charge speed 37 aren't great, but they're still marginally faster than certain competition in their armor weight class. Melee attack begins at 34, attack interval of the standard 4 seconds, no splash damage of any kind. This is barely above the level of standard Empire swords, and would be highly concerning if it wasn't a faction with lots of ways to boost melee attack, beginning with basic wall mechanics, but Greenskins do get such ways, so let's not despair. Melee defense starts at 42, which is pretty high for the faction. That's great. Next, weapon strength is 48, split between base 34 and armor piercing 14. This is the cost of losing the great weapons. Now, for raw weapon strength, that's still frighteningly high, and against enemies without really high armor, this is so much base damage that it should hurt exceptionally well. That is to say, even enemies with medium armor like Saurus warriors will take a beating from the shield-using Black Orcs whenever the latter connect with their attacks. Charge bonus is 30, and mass is 190. Both of these values are high. For an infantry unit, charge bonus is exceptionally high, and with melee attacks so restrained, you get a lot of value out of charging this unit in. Besides being able to hide in forest, this unit has immunity to psychology and therefore cannot be fear and terror routed. In addition, it has a toggleable stance in battle called Immovable Bulwark, where the Black Orcs can trade 24 melee attack for 24 melee defense, so minus 24 MA plus 24 MD. Usually in a battle, I would not want to do this. Winning melee combat quote-unquote is morale for you and less morale for your opponent. If you have realistic odds of outfighting an enemy in a brawl, you should leave this off. However, the option is nice for certain niche situations. What sort of situations? Well, this unit has no specific anti-large capability and will struggle against really high armor enemies. That doesn't really matter except to say you're losing a little less. What does matter is that the unit is vulnerable to high-end armor-piercing melee damage. If it's facing a unit that genuinely can outfight it in melee, jacking up the melee defense and buying time to get help, or to defeat the rest of the army and targeting even armor-piercing elite units until the snot wagons come home, is a workable option. It's irrelevant to missile targeting and only matters in melee. And yes, this also has validity if you're trying to target Scarbrand. It'll at least take longer for him to chew through you. Otherwise, you'd want goblins to target with their chests. In the Redline, there are so many Greenskin units that CA is forced to stuff them into broad categories. The Boys, at 3 pips, grants plus 6 melee attack to Orc infantry units, such as Black Orcs, and plus 12% weapon strength, split along the ratio we got earlier. Going up to 40 melee attack instantly makes a ranked 0 Black Orc unit legit against a lot of the game's forces. At rank 7, Ard Lads has 12 armor plus 5 melee defense and 8% ward save, for good measure, making it that much worse to try and kill the Black Orcs with shields. In the tech tree, one late tech at the bottom, the best loots, opens up the best blades and sharpen in stone scrap upgrades for Black Orcs. We'll get to this in a minute. Other than this, your main help is from Sunderin Blades, offering a +4 to melee attack and giving Black Orcs the contact effect Sundered Armor, -30 armor for enemies hit in melee for 10 seconds after a single attack hits. Which is absolutely amazing, and because this unit of Black Orcs is base damage heavy, it's helping its own cause immensely by reducing Greatswords to Source Warrior level armor, or Source Warriors to Swordsman level armor, or Swordsman to Flagellant level lack of armor, not accounting for their own tech upgrades. What about scrap upgrades? Immortal's armor is the first one you can get because the others are, per above, tech limited, requiring scrap to unlock the tech. Note that this is not the Immortal's banner, that's Grimgore's specialty, which means entities cannot die for that unit until under 50% base leadership. The TLDR for that is a great cannon that would obliterate 3 entities, can take all of the HP off 3 of them, 135 HP each or 395 unit wide, and it'll still have 80 entities as the unit charges puny battle lines. We need not dwell further. This armor upgrade grants 5% physical resistance, meaning it's ignored by magical attack, armor +15, which sure is not ignored by magical attack, and leadership +8. Now do you see why I mentioned the banner? Leadership +8 means that it's a lot further to go before you're losing entities. The Best Blades offers +5 melee attack and +20% weapon strength. For this unit, that weapon strength is split heavily toward base damage. Sharpen in Stones provides +5 armor-piercing weapon damage flat per entity hidden. We started at 14, now it's 19, before a potential boost of 32% from scrap upgrades and early Redline skills. Of course, it takes a lot of scrap to pretty them up that far. So with all this said, how do we use the Black Orc shield unit? Well, like a slower, much tankier version of Gore Herd with shields from way back in my Beastmen series. The gist is the overriding goal of your force is to make contact with the enemy, and the shootier the enemy, the better. This requires a slight diversion. Early on, if you're playing Chaos Dwarfs, your overriding nightmare is Grimgore coming to reduce your home city to ash. You're limited in your armor piercing, and indeed your only good armor piercing is blunderbuss units, or you're sheltering with the help of city defenses, which is a last resort. Because, attrition. Zaytan the Black has a simple approach. He's safer if he loads up on extra blunderbuss units, and safer still if he resorts to any level of trickery needed to take out Grimgore's Doom Diver catapults to protect his blunderbusses from getting worn down. But he has a hard snare that can stop Grimgore in his tracks quite literally, allowing lots and lots of blunderbuss fire to pierce his iron hide and wounding him. Problem solved, for now. The same general strategy applies for any of his Black Orc units, now styled Great Weapons versions, because however nightmarish they are, they don't have shields. But these do. Nowadays, you can nominate Black Orc big bosses to do the tanking for Grimgore too. But if it comes down to a unit, imagine sending this unit with 55% missile block chance straight into that buzzsaw and emerging a lot less scathed than the enemy hopes. That's very, very scary for any ranged faction. A melee faction like Vampire Counts might fear the other version a lot more, but wow. Chorfs, High Elves, even rival Greenskin factions with missile troops but no heavy artillery? They're in big, big trouble. Like zombies, you need to send this comparatively elite unit in first. Low speed be damned. But even with proper and legitimate armor-piercing missiles, it's still a nightmare to take this unit down. Of course, you still need an army around it to make this super anvil work, but it's a killy anvil and is entirely competent by itself. That's if you have one. If you have, let's say, 3 or 4, that's your line. You don't need another one. Focus the rest of your army on something else. You're good. I say that, but any help you can give is welcome, especially to overcome the glaring weaknesses of the unit, anti-large and overwhelming armor piercing. This is to say, if you're fighting Minotaurs of Khorne with high armor, large size, large entity hit points, anti-infantry bonus, and powerful armor piercing, you might be better off getting into bulwark stance and slaughtering the rest of the army, then finishing off the Minotaurs, or you send in something dedicated anti-large like Begin Cavalry, because with friendly Black Orcs taking hits, those cavalry are a lot safer than if they were facing that anti-armor alone. The final weakness of this unit is, of course, speed. If you need to catch Pistoliers, it's not going to happen. They'd better just stand still and let the Pistoliers fire until they're out of ammo. Again, if you want that job done, find someone else. They might just absorb all the ammo and, just grin and laugh. I hope this gives you perspective on how to use the unit to its fullest, and if you too say the Greenskins have no backline worthy of protection, well, they do bring some good artillery, so maintaining a firm center can give time for that stuff to work. And setting multiplayer limitations aside, Greenskins can pop some pretty powerful magic. Creating an enemy blob can pay immense dividends for you. Take care, and have fun shoving a soon-to-be immovable bulwark down your enemy's throat. It's one thing to have it 200 meters away. Having it 1 meter away wailing on your Jade Warrior crossbowmen is a bit more up close and personal.